Hello and welcome to Ask BR. We're going to be talking about Airaa. We're going to be addressing your questions. First question is from Arun, who asks, Hi BR, do you think that Nayan has committed herself to a few poorly written lead roles, hoping to follow a streak from Maya and Aram? I really loved her role in Viswasam and wish that some directors write family-oriented women roles like KB did. I don't know how her choices work, but I think Kolama Kokila was a very interesting choice. Imaika Nudigal was a very interesting choice. I mean, the film didn't work for me, but she was doing the role of a hero in that movie, so I think that was a very interesting choice. So I think it's like basically, where horror movies are usually a kind of a safe genre, and maybe she thought that the decision was made on the basis of that, but something went wrong. I don't know, but I think her choices have been fairly interesting in terms of at least the major heroines. Rajiv says when the majority of sections panned Dora, you surprisingly came up with a decent review. Other hand, Airaa is getting average reviews now compared to Dora, but you are given a poor rating. So what worked in Dora than Airaa? I think Dora was cleaner and it got into the thing right away. Yes, there was a very clean line of writing in Dora, whereas here we waste a lot of time with Yogi Babu. There's a grandmother character in the village that even if you take her away from the movie, you were not going to lose anything. That's one way to check whether something is important to a movie or not. If you remove it, does the movie still stand? Yes, it does. So you're basically wasting some one third of the movie with all kinds of random things which have no connection to the movie at all. And that's such a waste of time. And even when the second half happens in Dora, it's a very, there is something that's happening about the car and all those things. Here, the logic itself is very weird, and I don't think people are connecting to that the decision of the other Nayanthara to possess this Nayanthara and get what she wants. There's something very off about it. The revenge motive doesn't seem as strong, even though I like that central idea that when we undergo a lot of traumatic experiences in life, sometimes that can make us illogical and even crazy. I understand that. But some of the way it comes across in this movie is not strong, and I think that's not connecting. Rahul says, what do you think about these kind of films that follows the so-called prototype or template of horror films that too by someone like Nayanthara, even though she was good, the story doesn't seem to be impressive. I don't think there is any problem with prototype or template of horror films because as long as you do something interesting, our world is a great example of that. There's something that's happening there. I wouldn't call it something we've never seen before, but there was a twist that was interesting. There's a certain setting that's interesting. There's some parts in Chinese and things like that. So as long as there are, if you take the basic storyline, very few horror films truly are unique or different. But here, as long as you add certain things that make it work, it works. So I don't think the template itself is the problem. I think the individual movie and the writing, that becomes the problem. T says Bhavani is the best performance in Nayanthara in recent times. What are your favorite performance of hers? I liked her in Vishwasam, I think. But Bhavani is very nice because she appears to be freer in that role than she's usually very composed. She's very, like, she's very beautiful and she tries to kind of not screw up her face and kind of do all these things. Whereas in this, she was like letting go. She was giving those goofy grins. She was kind of, without going too much into that Arukani zone, she was kind of doing that, something that a character might do from a village. So it was very nice that mid-level of vingifying, if you want. She was doing that very well. And I thought that was a very nice performance. Sutarman Paskaran says, Airaa had blackface character and Super Deluxe had a man playing transgender role. Two things that had a huge backlash in Hollywood. Couldn't they have just played a black girl and transgender woman? Do you think it'll ever be a problem in Hollywood? See, I personally don't have a problem with this because I think that the very nature of acting means putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. If I don't have a problem with Kamala Hassan playing a dark character in Guna, then I shouldn't have a problem with Nayanthara playing a dark character in Airaa. I shouldn't have a problem with Vijay Sethupathi playing a trans woman character in Super Deluxe. Because the problem is not that these actors are playing those roles. The problem is more that there are not enough of those actors who get to play these roles. That's the real problem. It's not a problem that Vijay Sethupathi is playing a trans woman character. It's that there aren't enough trans people who get acting chances that are good. Now, when a trans person plays a straight role, like a sort of a cis role again, I won't have a problem with it. I'm not going to insist that only a cis person should play a cis role. If the dark person wants to color herself white and play this role, again, I don't have a problem because, as I said, acting means putting yourself in somebody else's shoes, like becoming somebody else. That means Every time you play a bad person, only a bad person should do it. Every time you play a person who's been married many times, or every time you play a person who's lost a leg, every time somebody plays a person who's a murderer. I mean, where does this end if you're going to insist that only people who represent that particular subcategory are going to play those people? The problem lies when the other side does not get to play these roles, but that's a problem throughout the world. So that is what we should be focusing on, rather than questioning whether these actors should be playing those roles, is my opinion on this. Kavindraj says Sarjun's short films were well received by the critics and audience, I suppose, at least because of its controversies. What went wrong for him or his feature films? I would say it's doing a disservice to Sarjun by saying those films were hits only because of controversies, because they were very well acted, well made, they were very strong in terms of writing. I think what happened here is, and Echarika is also not a bad film at all. There's a certain integrity with that atmosphere that he took up, that black thriller kind of thing that he took up. Something, just went wrong in this film. I think it was the writing combined with a lot of, I think what happened was they tried to please too many factions of the audience. I think that's what may have happened. See, it's easy to kind of look back and say the movie doesn't work, but what series of decisions led to the movie not working, it's a little harder to kind of, did the star put her foot down and say, I want Yogi Babu, or that decision come from Sarjun? Nobody knows these things. So, but the important thing is, he was a director with promise, and I think, we should not, just one movie is not good reason enough to write anybody off. Tarun Prakash says, why don't these films come to the point faster? That's exactly what I said earlier. The entire first half is wasted in mindless jump scares. Is it because a director wants to cater to a large audience and get in the space of commercially viable director? That's what it is, because it's like they brought in Yogi Babu and they didn't know what to do with him at all. It's like he didn't have a role at all. It's like you bring in an actor, at least bother to write a role for him. What is he doing? He's just hanging around and he's supposed to be funny because he has Multani Mitti on his face. What is that comedy? And why have we been having comedy in a horror kind of movie, unless it's a horror comedy kind of situation? So that's clearly thing. The other thing I felt that didn't really work was that Kalaiyarasan character and the Nayanthara character, these two tracks, they took too long to kind of mix. And we know that they are connected, but it takes very long to get to the point. So I think that was another problem here. Nikhil says, how do you relate both Airaa and Super Deluxe using butterfly effect, and both of them released in the same week? Airaa uses butterfly effect. Super Deluxe is not about butterfly effect. It is about a series of random events, but there's a certain chain reaction effect in the butterfly effect which is not there in Super Deluxe, and I don't think just because of this the causal thing is different, and I don't think we can compare both of them at all. Do you think Nayan will continue to act in this realistic roles like Bhavani, or will she continue to be the perfect looking heroine? I think perfect looking heroine is not such a bad thing, because I think she's in a fantastic place right now. There's a tremendous, forget what we think about the acting or whatever it is, but to be a number one star who's capable of bagging roles opposite big Tamil and Telugu and Malayalam actors after so many years in the business is huge. Unfortunately, what is considered longevity for a male star in the industry is not the same as what is considered longevity for a female star, but she's managed so much of life squeezing that kind of roles, and she's made herself exclusive. Like a Nayanthara star has become an event to look forward to. Earlier, when heroines did multiple movies, they were just like a heroine, nobody really, but she's positioned herself as a special person, and I think that's a very, very good move for her career. Sharad says, though Nayan was fabulous, people are more curious about the box office performance than actors. So with the actors get due appreciation only when the film is successful. Will Bhavani be remembered irrespective of box office verdict? Let's take Kamal's character in Anbe Shivam, right? The movie was a flop, but do you remember his character or not? I think some movies have this miraculous afterlife that happens even though they themselves flop. So they kind of go on and get to have a life of their own. But for instance, at 96 was a hit, it was not a flop. But I have a feeling those characters will be remembered for a long time and referenced for a long time, because there was something about it that went into the pop culture zone immediately. As for Bhavani, I think only time will tell. Rajiv says, why is Kohli so obsessed with the horror genre? Imagine if Sarjun had built a social drama with just Bhavani, Amudan portion with the right essence of emotions and cultured with the awareness. Dark is beautiful. What do you think? I don't know. See, the thing is, it's very easy to say, why not do this? But why social drama about darkness was already done in Nanum or Repent. Vijay Kumari was doing it. I mean, are you going to make the same movie again like 40, 45 years later? Maybe they didn't want to do that because that social zone has already been covered, and maybe he didn't want to do a social issue movie, you know. And in a way, I think messages are more interesting if they come in a form like this where the messages aren't apparent, because ultimately, if you look at Bhavani's story, it's about how a lack of self-esteem can kind of thing, but again can make one very off, very unrealistic in life and have all these expectations. But they focused again on many things, you know, like it was not just the darkness that she was cursed for. They also thought she brought bad luck. There were all these other things. So it was a little, you know, a little confusing about, I don't think it was just dark is beautiful. It was about a lot of other things. So I think that confusion also didn't help the movie. The fault is not with the fact that it was a social drama. It wasn't a social drama. I think it was these other things that we've been talking about. In Kollywood, actresses are still afraid of having huge transformation in looks. We find very few actresses, Anushka in Inji Duparagi, Nayanthara here. Can we say that these two actors are trying different since they got recognized for heroine-centric roles? Similarly, we don't find actresses having different looks when they do negative roles because, see, I think one reason is that people commit to many films and they kind of want those different looks. But unless you're a character actor, like let's say Lakshmi Ramakrishnan, who went bald for Yuddham Say, it becomes very difficult to kind of sustain that. You are hired for your beauty and you are required to deliver that. So I think, you know, the change of looks doesn't always help. I don't think, even if actresses insist that, I don't think they will be allowed to get away with two different looks. It's like you get the dark Nayanthara only because the fair Nayanthara is also there. Had another actress played the fair Nayanthara, you would not have Nayanthara in the darker complexioned role, so that won't happen. Naveen Menon says, I feel Airaa is quite different from other stereotypical horror thrillers in Kollywood, where the profound thriller of theory of butterfly effect and good writing, but still many people don't like it. What is the biggest negative element Mr. Rangan finds in Airaa? I think I wrote about it in my review. I think it's basically that the film takes too long to get to the point, and the horror angle is not that convincing enough for a ghost story. I think those are the two main things that I had. So those are all the questions that we have for Airaa. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next episode of Ask BR, and keep watching Film Companion South.